Hello friends, welcome to our session on React.JS. The agenda for today's session is what is React.JS, the aspects of React.JS, the advantages of React.JS, and the apps that use React.JS. So, what is React.JS? React.js is an open source JavaScript library. It is also another framework of JavaScript. Now, it is developed by Facebook and it is used to develop interactive user interfaces. Now, different aspects of React.js that we'll be covering over here is virtual DOM, data binding, and server-side rendering. Here, virtual DOM in React.js. Now, what is the virtual DOM? Just like the actual DOM, the virtual DOM is a node tree that lists the elements and their attributes and contents as objects and their properties. Now, the virtual DOM, what is the benefit of having a virtual DOM? That is, React is acts very fast. The user interface is created by React is very fast. That's just because of the presence of this virtual DOM. Now, how does the virtual DOM differ from the real DOM? The real DOM, a virtual DOM, is actually a copy of the real DOM. And in React.js, the React application or the events, they work with the virtual DOM and complete changes are made onto the virtual DOM. And only in the end, the places where there are changes, they or the nodes where there are changes, they are there, the changes are being made on in the real DOM. So the entire DOM, in the case of a real DOM, the entire DOM doesn't make a change. Only in the positions where there is a change, there the changes are affected. So the working of the React applications are very fast, and that is what is virtual DOM has done for this React.js application compared to JavaScript. Now, the virtual DOM in React.js, here we can see the comparison, how it is working. That is, in the case of a web page with simple JavaScript, if there are any events happening or if any actions happening, depending on the actions, there are certain updates to be made. And these updates are made on the real DOM. And in the case of virtual DOM, so it is time consuming as the entire real change has to be made on the entire real DOM. But when we come to the virtual DOMs, what happens is that the web page, if any action or if any event happens on a web page, the updations are made on the virtual DOM. So on the React.js's virtual DOM, and the entire updations after the entire updation happens, that is, if there are repeated actions, the updates of all the actions are done, and then in the virtual DOM, and then only the places where the changes have been made, they are updated onto the real DOM. So this makes the interactions much more faster in the case of React.js. Now we'll come to data binding in React.js. So we should know that React.js follows one-way data binding or unidirectional data flow. That is, the flow of the data is in one direction, and here in the entire application, the data flows in a single direction, which gives us a better control over the data. So we can see that this diagram over here. In this diagram, we can see a view page. The view is actually the HTML page with the React.js and where an action or where an event happens. So depending on the events, we generate an action. An action is generated. Now there can be one or more than one actions, and depending on the actions, the result is, that is, the output is sent to the dispatcher. So, and if there are n number of actions, then the n number of outputs are sent to the dispatcher, and from the dispatcher the changes are then made onto the store. That is, if anything has to be changed in the database or anything, then it is sent to the store. Then from there, the changes on the node they can be seen onto the view object. So wherever a change is made, those changes can be seen onto the view object. Here we can see that if a particular data has been changed, then the flow is from in one direction. Since the flow is in one direction, we can capture the data, we can have control over the data, and the change can be displayed onto the view page. So this is how the data binding is happening in React.js. Now, server-side rendering in React.js. Now, server-side rendering is a popular technique of rendering a client-side single-page application on the server and then sending a fully rendered page to the client. This approach can be useful for search engine optimization or SEO when indexing does not handle JavaScript properly. So that is in server-side rendering. What happens is that there's the entire client side just for basically for client side single pages where the entire page is being sent to the on a particular request, entire page is being sent to the server, and then a fully rendered page is only then after the processing the fully rendered page is then sent to the client. And this approach is useful in SEOs, that is SEOs in like search engines, where when you send there's just only one request, but then the entire page is being optimized and the entire page is then sent to the client. Here indexing does not handle. This is a situation where indexing may not work properly in in Java to handle that script. The JavaScript may not handle indexing properly, or it is also been though that is the places where these are the places where we use server-side rendering. It's useful. Now, it may also be beneficial in situations where downloading a large JavaScript bundle is hindered by a slow network. So when there is a slow network so a large bundle may have may be hindered. So there also, if the entire page, the processing and everything is done on the server side, and the entire page is then rendered to the client, then there also we can find it beneficial. So these are some of the situations where we find server-side rendering of React.js beneficial. So these are some of the aspects that we have to cover of React.js. Now we'll come to the advantages of React.js. The application performance is increased in the case of when we come to React by using React.js, and it's used as a client side as well as the server side scripting. So it's used in both these cases for scripting in the client side, on the client side, as well as on the server side. And React readability is improved by using React.js. The readability of the program is improved and easily used with other frameworks. That is, we can easily use React.js along with the frameworks of Java like Spring, MVC, Spring Boot, and it can also be used with languages like ASP or PHP or any other web application. So with any of these applications, we can use React.js with. Now, we'll come to the apps using React.js. Basically, it was developed by Facebook, so hence it's used in Facebook, then Yahoo, Uber, Netflix, Twitter, Instagram. These are all some of the apps which use React.js, and we know that they are all very fast and very uh, presentable. It's all just because of this React.js. So these are all some informations about React.js. Now you think this session has been informative, then please like, share and subscribe. And thanks for attending our session on React.js.